So, as we're kicking off the final hour of the show today, we're going to be looking at education. Education as pertains to the legal side of things, right? And joining us in the studio today is Dr. Victor Lando, who is a lecturer Riara University School of Law, and we're also talking online virtually with Collins Oluoch, who is an alumnus of the School of Law at the Riara University here in Nairobi. We're going to be looking at how Riara is unlocking new frontiers in legal education in the country. So before we even get into all of that, let's just say a big situation and welcome to you, Karibu Sana.
Thank you.
Collins, welcome to you as well. Karibu. Okay, so we're going to jump into it, Dr. Lando. When we think about legal education, when you think about the law is the law, right? It's legal. This is what you learn. Assuming that most people will get into some kind of legal profession, whether you're going to be lawyering, whether you're going to be a legal advisor, whatever it is going to be, but all of this will be hinged and hedged on the law. Now, when we talk about new approaches, new frontiers, unlocking things, are there then things that people did not know, or that the education sector, as concerned legal studies, then had not been encompassing previously? I guess that's where we start off with this today.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me today. A big hello from myself and the entire community at Riara Law School and Riara University. So thank you very much. Now, about legal education, as you have rightly said, there are so many opportunities available when someone studies law. You don't have to be a courtroom trial lawyer when you study law. You can be a parliamentary advisor. You can be a legislative advisor. You can be a judge. You can work for the UN. You can work for an international NGO. Or you can go into politics and become a member of parliament or a senator. Quite a number of our senators, our MPs, or have legal backgrounds. So first, it's just to say that there are so many opportunities available, both nationally and internationally, for someone who has a law degree. So you do not have to confine yourself to be a courtroom going person. There are so many other opportunities, even in tech, in terms of how the law interfaces with technology. There's quite a number of diverse opportunities there. And so that is the first point, that lawyers are not only courtroom going people. We also have other diverse opportunities for people who have studied law. Now, in terms of legal education, we are in the middle or at the start of the fourth industrial revolution, the tech revolution. And so the law, unfortunately, in most cases, it follows. It doesn't really lead. It follows science, unfortunately. And so with the advent of tech, there are so many diverse opportunities there. For example, in terms of artificial intelligence, how do you assign liability if an autonomous car hits you? So who's liable? Is it the person who owns it, or the manufacturer, or who? So all those little they're called terms and conditions when you're buying an autonomous vehicle. Who drafts those? So there are so many opportunities. For example, in tech, in innovation, intellectual property. Now we are developing, for example, when they're developing the vaccines for COVID and other diseases, for example, who owns the intellectual property to that vaccine?
Right.
When we had the first batch of vaccines developed, there was a concept of compulsory acquisition or compulsory use of a vaccine. Here I have developed a vaccine, I've spent millions of dollars on it, and then because of the benefit to humanity, I may not be able to reap the benefits of that because of the provision for compulsory acquisition by the state. So how do we have intellectual property lawyers who then protect the intellectual property of those who are in the middle of innovations? Even in biotechnology, we are in the middle of creating, for example, cloning animals, research in terms of plants and everything, plant varieties. So those are emerging scenarios, emerging areas of law. In addition to the existing framework of the law, which has now required to be tweaked to respond to some of these opportunities and challenges in the 21st century. So the legal education as we know it that happened in the 60s or the 70s now has changed, even in terms of how universities present, for example, present the course, the study of law has changed. We are now moving from face-to-face classroom type learning interactions to more of virtual type interactions. So, for example, at Riara Law School, we were lucky that even pre-COVID, the university had procured a learning management system. There was a software in place. We were doing what was called blended learning prior to COVID. So when COVID came, then what we did was just to plug and play, because we already had the systems, the staff were trained, and so we didn't have an uphill task when it came to doing virtual learning, online learning, digital learning. So in a nutshell,
you had seen the trend.
Yes.
Can I say, linked to the fourth revolution, the information age, how are you dealing with the soft skills? Because you're talking about the legal education. It's really impressive that you're looking at the method of delivery being aligned to the to the times. You're also looking at the content. What about the soft skills that go with it? Because we are seeing one of them with the proliferation of technology is information literacy. Being able to decipher information. You can have the legal knowledge, but as a world citizen, are you able to decipher, this proliferation of knowledge? Are you dealing with soft skills, or is that not necessarily part of what you did? We were talking earlier also about financial literacy.
Yes.
Having individuals who are able to manage their lives. You can make a lot of money, but you're then not able to manage it because you don't have these skills. They're not taught in school. And we were talking earlier about infusing these in programs to support businesses, but everybody needs information literacy, needs financial literacy. Are these some of the things you've thought about?
Yes. Two points, actually, two things. Firstly, there's a meeting that we had a few months ago at Naivasha it was courtesy of the Kenya School of Law and the Council for Legal Education, and we were looking at the legal education sector as a whole. And Riara University and other universities had been invited. And that was part of the conversation, actually, that how do we train 21st century lawyers, who are able to operate in a 21st century environment. And so there is an ongoing conversation. For example, I know that there is a curriculum review by the Kenya School of Law that is geared towards some of these things, addressing some of these challenges. Now, at the Riara Law School at Riara University, we have taken, we took that up a while back. I think in 2019, there was a partnership between Riara University and ARC Africa, where they were training our students on soft skills. So we have, as part of the curriculum, issues to do with computer literacy, information literacy, entrepreneurship. So those are skills that all law students or all students who pass through the Riara University, come across. And also we have opportunities for them to link with the market, so that when we have guest lecturers coming in or guest speakers coming in, or internship opportunities coming up, or in the legal environment, we call it, clinical attachment, where they are attached to a legal department in a law firm or in a bank or in parliament or in any other legal department, and they're able to learn on the job, so to speak. So the whole journey from first year to the end of fourth year, they have very immense opportunities to engage, and it is a deliberate thing that the university is doing to develop those soft skills for the students.
Okay.
Because we are training 21st century lawyers who should be able to respond to 21st century challenges. Yes.
So for you, Collins, I mean, having gone through this coursework, What opportunities do you see this kind of learning? What has it unlocked for you in terms of opportunities, and how? You may not be able to compare because clearly you didn't get a previous legal education, but here you are in this time. What opportunities have been unlocked that you've then been able to access?
Thank you so much. Allow me first to express my sincere indebtedness to Riara University for this opportunity to come and represent them and talk on behalf of the alumni of Riara University. When I was given this opportunity, I had a dilemma. I mean, I didn't know how to describe an institution that has impacted my life so much. When you talk about the kind of opportunities that have opened up for me, one, I think, at the very onset, Riara University demystifies legal education. Because, you know, when you think about law, you think about how rigid it is, you think about the book that you're going to read, you think about how toxic the environment is going to be, for lack of a better word. But I think, for me, my experience in Riara University was totally demystified. One, with regards to the delivery of it, to the fusion of the unit with other things. For instance, right from first year, we were learning things to do with ethics and integrity. We did leadership and democracy. We did creative and critical thinking in first year. So those things they demystified how we thought legal education looked like. When you talk about the delivery of that unit, Riara has approached a system that is called Socratic system, whereby a Socratic system is whereby you go read for yourself, and then you come and have a conversation that people like Dr. Lando will be facilitators for that conversation. They'll not be lecturers. So in that way, we found learning law to be so easy. When I talk about the opportunities, right from when I was in campus, there are a lot of opportunities that opened up for me, even before I left campus. One, I just want to say, Dr. Lando was my first employer. He employed me in his law firm to undertake clinical attachment. We have mooting competitions in the institution. And in Riara, we believe that it's an incubator for dreams and for aspirations, and it's a catalyst for you to be able to be pushed to whatever thing you want to pursue. When I joined Riara, I did not even own a passport. But by the time I was completing my studies in Riara, I had traveled to 8 countries because of mooting competitions. We went to London and we became number 3 worldwide. We went to Dublin and we became number 4, I think, worldwide. We've mooted all the way from London to South Africa to Uganda to 8 countries. Personally, those are the ones that I've mooted in, and those are the kind of opportunities that have opened up for me. When you look at the job market, people look at Riara University and private universities in a way that people think we are spoon-fed with the teaching that goes on there. But the equalizer for us is Kenya School of Law.
Yeah.
Because when you get to Kenya School of Law, then you are able to separate the chaff of the wheat, because all of us are there from all law schools.
Indeed.
And when you do the exams there, the bar exams, and you're able to compare and see, this is the number of intake from Riara University, and this is the number of people that have passed the 9 Ps. I mean, then it's like day and night. You cannot start saying that these people are spoon-fed while they were in campus, and now here, where we are not with our lecturers, we are excelling. Beyond that, currently, I'm in Mombasa working with National Assembly. That is another opportunity that has opened up for me. I think with regards to absorption of the alumni of Riara University, the job market is close to 100%, unless those who are chosen to progress academic-wise and further their studies. Those who not further their studies, they have been absorbed, all of them. And we do a survey every year before our graduation so that we can present it to people. We do our survey, and we've seen the beauty of Riara University is that if you're coming there and you want to be a leader, you are going to hone your leadership, and at the same time, you are going to ensure that whatever thing brought you here, insofar as education is concerned, you're not left behind. And that is one of the biggest opportunities I got from it, to be able to learn law, to be able to get leadership skills, and at the end of the day, to be able to laugh as much as possible.
Right.
Because the journey was so much fun-packed.
And as you talk about those courses that you're being taught, it sounds excellent. Sounds like what's needed. And I'm very excited you're talking about, did you say leadership and integrity? democracy and, did you say democracy and good governance? And the question I then have is, what's the application? Because it's great to teach it theoretically. How are you linking it into, the reality, the context we're living in? And more to the point is, from a university point of view, what impact do you expect these students to make when they enter into the market, which is very devoid of those qualities? And in fact, the legal profession is part of the problem. We are seeing actually corruption has morphed with very smart lawyers, financial experts being the conduits for very high-tech corruption that government can't track. Now, you can't deal with individual behavior and choice, but of course, education orients people a certain way. So how well are you preparing your students to contribute positively in dealing with the governance problems that bedevil the country?
Okay, that's addressed to me, or
well, maybe we start with you, Dr. Lando. Maybe we start with you, then we can hear from the alumnus. Yeah.
Okay. For us, as Riara Law School and the university at large, our philosophy is that we want to not create, but we want to imbue certain values in our students, right? So we are not just churning out graduates and that is it. We want them to be global citizens, responsible citizens, and we also have this thing of having African awareness and the African Renaissance infused into them, that they are not only global citizens, but they are responsible Kenyans, and they are part of the African community, and they should not lose their identity as Africans, and that Africans have some value to bring to the global scene. So, and arising out of that, we take very special care to, it's called what? To demonstrate to them, to our students, the values of integrity, the values of good leadership, good citizenship. That practicing law is not only just about getting a career which can earn you some money, but also about contributing to society. And that is part of the reason why Riara is located at Kibera. The founders were very conscious that we want this to be a place where we can even engage with the community around. And we do have, sometimes we do have legal clinics that we do with the community in Kibra to just provide some limited legal support and limited legal advice to them. And in the near future, we are partnering with Kituo cha Sheria to be able to have a more structured legal aid framework where the students themselves engage in providing legal aid and support to people who may not have access to legal support.
Right.
Because legal services are very expensive. And when you engage with the justice sector, you find that there are very many people who are unfairly treated, and they are in jail or in custody unfairly. And all they need is just a lawyer to go and speak on their behalf. Yes.
Unlocking opportunities, unlocking what can actually be achieved through legal education. And Riara is showing us how this morning. In the studio today, Siti Mugat Nduoko and Wanjiro Gikonyo, joined by Dr. Victor Lando from Riara University's Law School, as well as an alumnus of the university, Collins Oloch, who is currently in Mombasa. And you have an opportunity, having worked with the university, and just before we went on break, telling us, okay, some of the things you learned, leadership and integrity, good governance, some of these qualities. Asking the question, how then have you been able to use your education then in life and work?
Thank you so much. To whom much is given, much is required. And you know how you can be able to evaluate the output of what you've been given is in the positions that you've been given of responsibility. To me, I believe how you can measure a Riara graduate or an alumni of Riara is through the responsibilities that have been granted. But even before we even left campus, just right in campus, as Dr. Lando has stated, that even the positioning of Riara is strategic. We are there to be able to first influence in the community in Kibra. But beyond that, Riara Law School has a law review. This is one of the this is one of the platforms that we've used to challenge the kind of legislation that we have in the country. We've submitted memoranda as students for the laws that have been passed. We've written as a Riara law review to the National Assembly, clerk of the National Assembly, to make our contributions to laws that we think affect us. Even right from the Universities Amendment Act, we've made submissions there, and we even appeared before Education Committee in the National Assembly to make our presentations. That is one of the opportunities that we've had to contribute to the country and to the legislations that are made in this country. Two is the legal aid clinic. We know as a country we are embracing the access to justice, but this is not really a reality because a lot of people, as Dr. Rando has said, they're in jail because of lack of legal representation. And so we've been able to set this right from the community that we are in Kibra. We've been able to impact the people in Kibra by conducting, I think we'll be now doing the third or the fourth edition of the legal aid clinic this year. And we've been able to reach out to those communities, pick up cases that we can solve at that level. There are cases that do not need to go to court and that we've been able to solve at that level. There are those that have been taken up and they're proceeded to court. And when I was there as a student, and I think it's still ongoing now in the law review and in the Riara Law Club, they become a research port for the lawyers who've taken the matters to court. And so this is how we are contributing, and this is how we are transforming that space. But finally, when you go to Riara Law School and Riara University as a whole, you will not realize the presence of lecturers or the presence of the administration, because the students are always the ones at the forefront. The students are the ones leading. And you'll never hear anything about violence or about riots in Riara University, because the responsibility that has been bestowed on the students insofar as leadership is concerned, they are able to put that in practice, and the administration can supervise and see that. If it's about petitioning for the grievances, we have channels and we have systems of doing so. If it's about discipline, we are the ones at the forefront of ensuring that we're instilling discipline amongst our peers. So I think for us, the responsibility that we've been given, and through the training that we've undergone, that is leadership and governance, that is ethics and integrity, we've been able to put that in practice even before we've graduated. And I believe the more we've had that inculcated, it has become part of us and it has become our behavior. So it's so hard for us to depart from it.
Collins, you have sold Riara University beautifully. If I wanted to study law, I would actually think this Riara is the place to go, because it is clearly, from what you say, student-centered, focused on what the learner is actually going to benefit. Actually, learning is all about that if you think about it, from whatever level.
True.
Walk us through these clinics that you speak of. What happens? How, when you get there, how do you determine who qualifies to be at the clinic? How do you handle the issues? How many people go through this clinic in the course of, say, a year? How many cases do you take to court? How many are resolved without going to court?
Okay. So before we started this legal clinic, the first thing we did was to get in contact with the paralegals that are in Kibera. We partnered with an organization called
who is a paralegal?
Okay. We have an advocate, a lawyer, and a paralegal. An advocate is a lawyer who, after undergoing training, they've gone to Kenya School of Law and done advocate training program and passed what you say 9 P's is passing at the Kenya School of Law, and then now they admitted to the bar. A lawyer is the one who just completed law school, and then a paralegal goes for a training called paralegal studies. They are offered equally in Kenya School of Law. That is the level. So we partnered with an organization called Beauty of Hope that is in Kibera, and we trained their paralegals. We realized that their paralegals were lastly trained, I think, in 2006. And you realize that the Constitution is as old as 2010. So they are not familiar with the Constitution.
And how many of these people did you train?
46 of them.
Go on.
And these are people who've been there solving legal issues, and they are not aware of the new legal dispensation that we have. So the first thing for us was to take them through the elementary constitutional law, teach them about the new dispensation, teach them about the property rights, because some of the issues are about property, teach them about their rights as individuals right there. That was the first assignment that we did, so that these are going to be our ambassadors even when we've left the place, because we're not going to always be stationed at that place. But past our time there, they're going to carry on the message that we taught them. So after that, then we organize at Sofco grounds a legal aid clinic whereby we pitched in. We partnered with Kituo cha Sheria, we partnered with Kelin, we partnered with Spida Kenya, we partnered with a lot of other sector players. Because as law students, we are not competent. In the Advocates Act, we are called unqualified persons to give legal advice. But when we partner with people and we are under them, so that we have a legal counsel who is there to give you advice, for us is to do the research. If the legal counsel is going to take up the matter to court, ours is to do the research. There are issues to do with contractual issues, and for us just to tell you, these are the rights of the parties, this is what happened, just paint that picture for you legally. So those are not matters that are going to be taken up to court. But at the moment, we have 12 live cases that are in court.
So, Dr. Lando, even as Collins is saying this, I mean, clearly, so this is clearly what you've learned, then you're able to apply when you're in the workspace. How do you see that this kind of legal education that is clearly taking into consideration everything that is happening today, how is it then going to shape the legal framework in this country, or at least contribute towards it? Because we've heard all kinds, I mean, open the door and anything flies in, right?
Yes.
So if we're looking at shaping the legal framework in this country differently, how is this all contributing towards that?
Okay, so the concept that we use at Riara Law School is called transformative learning. Okay, learning that makes students curious enough to explore on their own and to create new knowledge. Not learning that, where you go to school, you cram what is a contract and then you regurgitate it during the exam, and after the exam you delete. That's what we used to happen in some schools somewhere, where you go, you cram all this stuff in your head just for exam purposes, and after that you're done with it. But for us, it's we say learning is a lifelong thing. You don't stop learning just because you have a law degree. So one is transformative learning that empowers you to transform your society, to transform the status quo. And also, secondly, is that we encourage our students to question things. We don't, in class, we don't, it's called what? We don't give notes. So, for example, when you had the first years coming in, they were asking, where are the notes? And I'm like, no, we don't give notes here. We give you reading material, you go read, come back, we'll have a discussion and we'll have a chat. And if you're able to back up your argument with law, with facts, with sound arguments, then there's no wrong answer, so to speak. So we encourage our students to be curious, to see learning as a lifelong opportunity, so that they're able to then use those skills to resolve issues and problems that they encounter later. Okay, and even the way our exams are done, we do not... in education, there's something called the Bloom's taxonomy. It's a triangle where learning, there's the very basic learning at the bottom, and then there's higher level learning at the top. So basic level learning is like, for example, when you have a 2-year-old child who can recite for you 1 to 10, but they don't know what 1 is or 10 is.
Right.
They'll just sing-song it. But if at the higher level of thinking is where you can use different interrelated concepts and create new knowledge. So we encourage our students to use different concepts and create new knowledge, or apply it to resolve practical problems in society, and not necessarily just pass exams. So we do not train students to pass exams, so to speak. We train students to be global citizens, to be students of life, to be curious. So in terms of resolving and changing the legal the legal profession and the legal education platform, or the legal education space, we seek to use what is called transformative learning. It's a way of facilitating learning, which is more learner-led, as opposed to you have this lecturer who is the repository of knowledge and is spewing knowledge to you who know nothing. No, it's where we co-create knowledge. And so you find there are some times when a student asks you a question in class and you honestly do not know the answer. You will not lie to the student. You tell them, let's go research. I will research. Next class, come, let's have that discussion. So in terms of transforming the legal profession slowly, bit by bit. And I know it's not only Riara that is doing it, because of the conversation I alluded to earlier with the legal education sector, the Council for Legal Education and the Kenya School of Law. There is a whole move to shift legal education in Kenya, to move from the traditional one where you had the lecturer standing as the repository of knowledge to a different framework where the students are also participants and co-creators of knowledge. And hopefully it will transform the legal profession. Yes.
Yeah. Riara University is a fairly new university.
Yes.
Okay. So it puts them in a very unique position. One which I'm referring to is learning from the mistakes of others.
Yes.
Okay. The thought process that you're talking about, and I'm thinking of some of our older public universities who have had the institution of law in those universities for the longest time. Faculty of Law. And I'm thinking about what you're saying. And I'm thinking about implementing it, not just with law. I'm thinking of all the disciplines that are offered. It is an exceedingly tall order. People don't change that easily. Now, it puts Riara in a very unique position, though. It puts Riara in a unique position because they're trailblazing. That trailblazing, how does it fit into the real world of the practice of law?
Yes.
And how successful is it?
And do you mind if I tag a question onto that?
Tag two.
Yes. In terms of the preparation of students,
Yes.
your approach seems to take the CBC approach. It seems to have the same kind of principles, as opposed to what we have now, which is more of the banking rote learning model.
Yes.
So in terms of the students coming in, what are you dealing with? And how well is this system being, I don't know, CBC has a lot of hiccups in how it's being implemented. But what are your thoughts about the preparation of students to be prepared for transformative learning? Yeah.
Okay. That's a tall order, but I'll try and remember his question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But I think I've gotten both of them. Riara University is fairly young compared to the other universities. We are going to celebrate our 10th anniversary in 2022. So next year is a big year for us. The law school has had, I think, about 4 batches graduating. Quite a number of our graduates have are very successful in whichever endeavors they are doing. Some of them are in top law firms in Nairobi. We have, I think, 3 or 4. I think there's. I know 2 who are in Harvard. They went on to do their masters in Harvard, and so on scholarship, not paying, but on scholarship, which means it speaks to the kind of products that we generate. Some are in academia. So in terms of market response, we are seeing that our graduates are being absorbed, as Collins has mentioned, almost 100% absorption rate. But of course, we don't have 300 students graduating at a go. So you also have to taper it with that. That if you're graduating 100 is easier to absorb in a market than 1,000. But yes, our students are being absorbed into the legal profession, and the feedback that you are getting is very positive. Now, again, we have the advantage of being a fairly young university. It's a private university, but we've also benefited from the Riara brand, because Riara University is part of Riara Group of Schools, which is more than 40 years, has been in existence for more than 40 years. So they have a very good backing in terms of education itself. And so when you now take it up a notch higher into higher education or university education or legal education, then they have an advantage of experience and of being in the industry for quite some time in terms of education. And then the decision-making processes are easier, as opposed to public universities, which may have several stakeholders and several processes to go through before taking decisions.
Doctor, it isn't processes, it is culture. Old private institutions have a culture. And that culture is what pervades everything and what determines everything. Yes.
But aren't they trying to change that culture by changing
They
the
talk
education
about
system?
they talk about wanting to change it. University learning in Kenya for the longest time has been traditional. Not much changes, and not much is allowed to be brought in to change it.
Yeah, but so what's the question? You're asking what Riara can do? Because they can trailblaze.
Oh, no. He's
and
actually
maybe
answering the
create-
question. I was just commenting. I had to quip in on that one there because you see, even the CBC system that you mentioned, Wanjiro, if you look at it, theoretically, this is something that is long overdue. An education system has to evolve with the times. Now, the question is, having evolved, do we have the mindset that we have to keep that mind open so that we can continue evolving it so that it actually meets the needs? You look at subjects that are taught in the institutions of higher learning. How vigorous and how robust are we in looking at these subjects and determine that, this subject used to be taught once, but it's in its current form, it's not very useful. We need to rejig it so that we can do it. Or this one, let's just do this one completely. Yes, and bring something else. How often does that happen?
So, Collins, for you then, I mean, after having gone through a Riara education, if you were to, because I'm sure you have colleagues who went to other law schools, who went to other universities and passed through a different system, a different way of doing things. If you were to do a comparative analysis, and of course I'm not asking you to name anything, but would you say that you are more advantageous because of the mode or techniques clearly that we've been explained to today?
Totally. I'd say that. Riara was not my first choice of a law school that I'd wanted to go to because of the age. And you'd see why and we faced that question the whole of the 4 years. We kept defending our choice of higher learning. Why did we choose to go to Riara University in its young state, quote unquote? But that is the best decision I have ever made in my entire life, choosing to go to Riara University Law School. When we talk about and I've talked about the delivery and I've talked about the fusion, when you get to the classroom, for instance, the student-teacher ratio that is there, I'm sure Dr. Lando knows all the students he has taught from first year, from the first time he started teaching in Riara University until now by name. And that is the intentionality that we have in Riara University. Because of the few students that we have in a class, it's so easy for a lecturer to be intentional with your growth. There are universities that you are lumped up 1,000 students in a class, and the lecturer will never realize whether you attend class or not, even how you look like or your voice. They never realize that. For us, you're given 10 marks for class participation. So it puts you in a position whereby, after you've been told to go and read, you have to present what you've read, because this is going to contribute to your marks. When Dr. Lando was talking about transformative learning, and even the setting of the exams, we are facing a big challenge as a country insofar as exam cheating is concerned, because we are teaching students to cram the content, and so that when the time comes for producing what you've crammed, it becomes difficult. So that's why you have to carry with you more Kenya for you to remind yourself. But you see, in Riara, we have exams where you're doing it open book. You are allowed to come with your book. But let me tell you, the interest is not on the answer that you're going to give, or the answer that is in the book. The interest is on how you're going to fuse what you've been taught, what is in the book, merge it with what you're being asked to produce. And I think that is what you're talking about, transformative learning. It's not just about duplication. When you go to other universities or other institutions, it's about they are like producing other books. They're like training small authors, because they are going to reproduce what has been already produced in other books. But for us, it's different. So when you talk about how different it is for those that have been from other universities, I think this came into play when I was in Kenya School of Law. And together we were doing assignments together, we had farms together, and you'd see the quality of work that they are doing. You'd see how strict they would be in things that maybe I'd not be strict in, or how I'd be strict in things that they would not take much serious or magnitude in them because of how the training that I've undergone. For instance, things to do with referencing. That is one thing that other institutions don't take seriously. For Riara University, I remember there is a unit that I got 0 in a cut out of 10 because
Okay.
I failed to reference. It is that serious. You cannot reproduce someone's work without giving credence to those people.
Yeah.
So that is a basic thing that, that is personal story. That's a basic thing on how different we are with other institutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, last
So
question.
just I'd like to rephrase the question, and maybe because I was trying to build on the point Siti was making about transformative learning is where we want to go. We have a culture problem in terms of there's the old traditional way things have been done. What are the opportunities? You're talking about the Council of Legal Education, these discussions around the table. Right now, we are having, linked to our issue, fiscal consolidation, where universities are being told to close their satellite clinics and all of that. In all that mix, where are the opportunities for us to put transformative education at the center? It sounds expensive to deliver because the student-teacher ratio is quite small. So what are the opportunities to get more in universities getting into this transformative education model?
Dr. Lando, if you could take that in a minute. Yeah.
Sure. COVID provided a very good opportunity for that because we had to switch from face-to-face learning to virtual learning or digital learning. And so there is a move globally towards digital learning with the edX and the rest of the apps and the companies that are doing digital learning. So you have so many digital learning platforms. If you look at the stats, pre-COVID and post-COVID, the numbers have gone through the roof. And so universities have to retool, restructure, and ensure that they take up digital learning. We had a meeting, I think, on Tuesday at the university to just explore how we are going to take advantage of digital learning. And so transformative learning, when you link it up with digital learning tools, it helps to have the learning process more learner-led, where, for example, in future you can have like a build your own degree thing, where if you want to do a law degree merged with IT, merged with communications, then you can build your own degree based on the online tools and presence that you have. And so digital learning is going to be transformative. It is the future of education, the future of learning, where you're going to have education being more internet-based, where learners can learn from wherever location they are in. We have had a taste of it through COVID. And so that provides a very useful tool. It is not so expensive because you don't have to invest so much in physical premises and everything. But you'd have to just, invest more on the startup. The initial cost would be a little bit high because of putting all those things on the platforms. But after that, the cost would taper down. So digital learning is a very good opportunity to engage in transformational learning because you can merge multidisciplinary things and ensure that you have the experts from whichever sector that you want. All in the virtual environment.
What about mindset?
There's interesting things going on, that's for sure. And at this point, we want to say thank you very much, Dr. Victor Lando, and also Collins Oluoch. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Exciting things happening for sure, and it would be very interesting to see how this shapes the future. Thanks for joining us in the Situation Room this morning. Asante Sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.